What's up, everybody? Welcome to Artist of Data Science Open Office Hours. It is Friday, September 25th. We've had an awesome week at the Artist of Data Science, released two awesome episodes this week. One of them was with Gilbert Kellenboom, talking about the algorithms of emotional intelligence. And he came on the show to talk about his book that he'd written, People Skills for Analytical Thinkers. It was a amazing conversation. Definitely check that conversation out if you want to learn more about how your brain works, how to get more feedback from your colleagues, from your boss, and just overall the general importance of emotional intelligence. Also released an episode with Dr. Alex Pang. You might have recognized him from the talks that he's done at Google, the interviews he's done with Ariana Huffington and Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. He came onto the show talking about his books, Rest and Shorter. In Rest, he talks about the need to pretty much have a strategy in your life to build in restful periods. It was a really good conversation. We talked a lot about the importance of having a morning routine and how the morning routine really facilitates creativity. Really great episodes this week. Make sure you check them out. I want to welcome you guys to the office hours. Thanks so much for stopping by. I like to open the office hours with a quote, a quote from my friend Giuseppe Bonacarso. He talks about pretty much what the role of a mentor is in data science. So I want to take a second to read through this because his philosophy for what a mentor is really aligns well with my philosophy. So first one is that a mentor is not a professor or a master. We're basically friends that are here to support you. We're not the repository of all knowledge. And in fact, I, like him, don't place myself in the category of professor or master. We're not a substitute for books, Stack Overflow, or anything else that you can use to solve your problem autonomously. And we're not here to really share our experience or knowledge. I mean, we're here to share our experience, not necessarily our knowledge. Probably won't be able to help you work through important decisions. I mean, I can help you work through important decisions, but I won't be able to influence them. And you'll hear me ask a lot of questions. So definitely agree with Giuseppe Bonacarso's philosophy on mentorship. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Right now we got Jaya and we got Perry in the building. Thank you guys for hanging out. And for anybody listening on the podcast, make sure you are up to date with office hours by going to bit.ly/ADSOH. Just a heads up, by registering for open office hours, you're pretty much agreeing to get communication from me. Pretty soon I'll have a bi-monthly newsletter coming out. No spam, no junk, only value. Hope you guys will enjoy that. But yeah, welcome everybody to office hours. Super happy to have you here. Jaya, how's it going? I recognize you, obviously, from Data Science Dream Job. Super happy to have you here. How you doing?
I'm fine, Harpit, and so glad to be here to watch your show. And hi, Carlos. Uh, both of you are very active in LinkedIn, so.
Oh, too active. I'm trying to slow down.
Happy to be here.
Harpreet, you got a whole block on this thing, bro. I had to do 3 sign-ins, man. I thought Zoom just let anybody hop in.
Really? What was the sign-in issue?
I had to register my Gmail with Zoom. I had to do a whole thing. I was like, oh, wow.
All right, I'll have to adjust those settings. I didn't know I had it all strict. But yeah, man, good to have you here.
Yeah. I'm hyped. Hold on.
Yeah, man. You got the Pizza Hut. There you go, man.
I'm super cold.
Yeah, it's getting cold up here in Canada. Well, today's the last hot day, and the rest of this month is gonna be cold.
Why do I forget that you're in Canada?
Oh, I'm originally from California. That's probably why. Yeah. But yeah, man. So if anybody's got questions, definitely jump in. You don't even have to have a question. You can just have commentary. I see Perry hanging out, Jaya hanging out. So I mean, there's no necessary need to have questions per se. I'm just interested to see what you guys are up to, man. How's your week been, Carlos?
Dang, mine's been cool. I'm took vacation last Friday and Monday. Funny enough, that kind of messed me up because now I'm behind on a client thing and we're like finishing out a commercial project, and commercial data science moves 1,000 miles an hour. We started the project September 2nd and it's finished today is when
Wow.
it's due. And like, it's not that big a deal. It's just a dashboard and like API connections and all this stuff, but it is just 1,000 miles an hour. I'm learning a lot though. I've made a lot of mistakes in the last month. Happy to talk about those.
Yeah. How many people are working on this project that, because a month turnaround, like I've been fortunate enough in my career just to have projects that are heavily research focused. Obviously the goal is always some type of implementation or deployment, but nothing that's ever had to move at like breakneck speeds like that.
So the idea is we're making a COVID-19 model at the county level.
I think Carlos is frozen. Very clearly looks frozen on my screen.
So that especially
it's all right. I'll edit out the silences on the production for the podcast. But when this goes up on YouTube, you guys will be able to see Carlos's frozen face. It'll be awesome. I'm hoping you can hear me okay. Is it my connection issue?
I don't know. I just turned off a bunch of stuff.
All right.
I can hear you, Harpreet, but yeah, it gets frozen from time to time. But
Okay.
It's okay. It's technology.
Yeah.
How's it now? Am I still frozen?
No, you're good now. You're back on.
You're good. You're good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
good.
it's, they're trying to send their sales force out there safely because they don't want to send people who do, commercial health sales into hospitals and doctors' offices and like make things worse. So there's like a balance there between public health and economics that I do understand. So we're trying to do that. But we got like a 7-person dashboard team. We got like a 2-person account team. We got we have 2 data scientists. I'm managing the data scientists, and it's just like so fast, man. Like the requirements were not gathered day one. So we're like doing requirements gathering while we're doing development, while we're doing like deployment, and anything could just switch at any second.
So talk to us about that requirements gathering. So when you're out there working with a client, what is it like? Are their requirements typically vague? Do you have to dig in deeper?
So, I mean, we're a consulting firm. So like we bring expertise and we have to balance, their needs with like what they don't know that they need. So it's a lot of, finding references for them, showing them like what the benchmarks are. How do you benchmark to Harvard or Johns Hopkins in terms of metrics? But the hardest part is just that when you're the expert in the room and they're the client, you have to figure out how to get them to come out with the success metrics. Like, how do we know that we succeeded? And they don't know because like they have their current way of doing things and they don't actually know what level of improvement is good versus what level of improvement is not enough. And they don't even know if it is an improvement or not. So there's a lot in there around just like I've been reading a lot about this and I've been saying like a lot this week. It's like there's data driven, there's data informed. I learned this from decision scientist at Google, Cassie, can't pronounce her last name. She's going to be on Datacated on a webinar with Kate Strachny next week. So she's always talking about the stuff. There's data driven and data informed. Informed is like, oh yeah, what are the numbers? Okay, these numbers look good. Let's pick these ones. And data driven is like, here are my metrics of success. If this is the data, I'm going to do this. If it's not the data, I'm going to do this. And without seeing the data, you make all of your threshold decisions, and then you just look at what the data says. And that's what data in the driver's seat. Otherwise, it's just data informed. And I'm learning the hard way, and this is not the first time I learned this lesson. I've learned this lesson on a lot of projects, is that when you let data informed happen, it just makes everything messy because now you have to like argue with whether the data is up to standard, or whether the data is, like, what are the confidence intervals and stuff. And like, those are obviously good things that they care about, but you got to care about them before you start. And you just put the thresholds up before you start. Otherwise, you're going to see stuff and you're going to be surprised it doesn't fit with your assumptions. Hey, your assumptions, you didn't write those down. Like, people always have assumptions they don't write down. It's just messy. I had this, my mentee, actually, he's doing his senior design in industrial engineering, and he's doing data analysis for a small health company in his city. And they need to like optimize their, clinicians and techs to reduce wait times, because their wait times are randomly really high and most of the time they're really low. So it's like anomaly detection too. And one of the things that we were talking about is like, okay, well, let's look at clinicians versus techs and the wait time between both, and let's do a t-test to see, are they truly different or not? And that might inform whether we want to rearrange how techs and clinicians move about this small office. And what we did was we just did the t-test just to show them what it was. I just showed them what it was, and I saw the number, and I was like, yeah, okay, the p-value is 12 or 0.12. And he was like, oh, that's not very significant, right? And I was like, actually, we can't say that word because we cheated 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
One, we didn't make assumptions about the underlying distribution of wait times. It's a Poisson distribution, and we're assuming it's normal. So we already broke one rule. 2, we didn't set our p-value ahead of time. So right now we just moved into data informed. And then 3, we also like didn't decide whether or not the variances of our distributions are equal or not. Mm-hmm. So we're just taking a t-test assumption of equal variance, but they might not be equal. So we've already we broke 3 rules with 1 line of code. We broke 3 rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that with everything. Like if you're not meticulously designing your experiment, this is what you're going to end up in. You're going to end up arguing whether 0.12 per p-value means anything or not. So I don't want to take up your whole show. I didn't know what you were doing. I thought we were.
No, we're just people don't have questions, so we're just listening, man. So it's all good. That's very interesting to hear what it's like in real life, in consulting. I guess a lot of people would be interested in that. Yeah, definitely, man. But yeah, if anybody has questions, like, you guys feel free to hop in and chime in. Otherwise, I'll just continue to talk to Carlos about what real life data science is like. So, how you liking these? It's not related to data science at all, but how you liking the LinkedIn stories?
I don't see them. I don't know what that is. I have not. Really? My app doesn't have it. I can't find it. Where is it?
Well, I had to re-download. Well, I didn't really have LinkedIn on my phone before. I was just using the desktop version. I downloaded it on my phone because I heard about stories and mine had it.
It's you know my hot take on it? Yeah. I think it's a stupid idea. Yeah. I think it's like a fundamental, and not because I think stories are bad. I think stories are cool. I think casualizing LinkedIn is a very smart idea. But LinkedIn has incentivized behaviors over its entire history that do not align to how stories work. Mm-hmm. Like on LinkedIn, if you add someone on LinkedIn, right, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to look at your profile and they're going to see if you have 500 plus or not. That's the first thing they're doing. Are you serious about LinkedIn or not? And everybody has 500 plus connections because there's lions out there adding everybody. Mm-hmm. And if you compare that to Instagram or Facebook, where the average person, median person, has like dozens, 100, 200 people, like you have scaled up the like attention deficit problem on LinkedIn, because now anybody can just post their story and everybody has 500 connections. So it's like, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to have prioritized stories? Are they going to bring in close friends? I would like that feature, because there's some people that I connect with or follow, and then like I'm just like, oh, I don't even know why we're connected. Like, you don't post anything, and or they don't post anything, but they like weird stuff, and it's like, oh, my whole feed is just random likes of like nonsense. So yeah, I mean, I think LinkedIn as a platform, their history of what they've incentivized is not conducive to stories going really well.
Yeah, I've been learning the hard way, because I've just been stepping up my LinkedIn presence. Really,
saw you. You went from like 5K to like 10K, bro, in like months.
Yeah. I mean, just stepping it up just by, all right, I'm just gonna start posting stuff. Like, why not?
I do think this is not a criticism.
Yeah,
I do think you're a little fast on the trigger finger. Like, I see you're just pumping stuff out, and I'm just like, oh, this image is really cool. I read it, but then I don't see like you expanding on it with your thoughts to
Yeah.
like end up giving me a lesson of some sort. It's just like, check out this quote, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to
So
consume it correctly.
thank you for that feedback. That's really valuable because what I do is I'll go on a publishing app and I'll just schedule it on there just because I'm experimenting with it, just seeing how this thing works. And very much so is going to be a new
Ah,
part of my strategy.
I
You
found the
finally got
stories.
it. Nice. But yeah, it's good to know. I appreciate that feedback. And if anybody listening on the podcast has feedback, just shoot me an email at theartistofdatascience@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. Um, but yeah, I'll definitely be adding some more
Oh,
color commentary.
I think they rank who you see in your stories based on the stuff that you interact with most. Because everybody on my story right now are like the big people, the people that are always on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just trying to figure this stuff out, man. Apparently, like I'm not supposed to put links in the body of the text, and apparently images, I guess, aren't really supposed to be in
Yeah,
there.
images bad, links outside of LinkedIn bad. That's why I'm always linked in the comment. I hate that they have to make it game the system. Like this is
Yeah,
so like you're like paying attention to the wrong stuff. What is it? There's another one that's like really, really bad. Oh, shares. If you share something else, if you share someone's post on LinkedIn, it's like the
yeah.
worst thing you can do. I think it even destroys their engagement that you shared. It's like so punished.
So weird, huh? All these different
I don't know. It
different
gets away. Like
games
that's
they
not the
play.
point. Like I'm not trying to play a game. I'm just trying to like
Yeah,
create
I mean,
cool stuff.
I'm just trying to like put some. There's a lot of awesome people that come on the podcast sharing some such deep, awesome wisdom and knowledge, and thinking like, how do I unlock that? How do I get that out there? Okay, let's do quote graphics, let's do audiograms and things like that, so I can make this content more visible so people can see what's going on. But then it doesn't get any engagement reviews, and it gets really frustrating, demotivating. Got somebody else that joined in, so either Perry, Jaya, Raul, if you guys got questions, man, by all means, like go for it. This is for you guys.
I'm putting you on my LinkedIn story, bro.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Hey, Carlos, why don't you share a little bit about what you do in Washington, D.C. and stuff like that? That would be great. Like just a short introduction about yourself and what you do. And I know
Yeah.
you're based out in the East Coast. What's it like in terms of data science in the field that you're working in and so forth? That'll be great.
Yeah, so I'm at a consulting firm called Guidehouse. They're a federal government consulting firm. They purchased Navigant Consulting, which was a commercial consulting firm. So now we're about 50-50 government and commercial. I work on the advanced analytics team. So we're like a horizontal group that helps all of the teams. So there's like health and life sciences and infrastructure and defense and commercial, whatever. And we're across all of those. So like my coworker I work with every single day or something, even next to them in the office when the offices are open, they could be like Department of State or something, which is really cool because you get like a lot of very interesting experience, just like helping people with random problems. Just cause you're like, oh, what's that you're working on? Oh, you have a problem with Tableau. Let's like look at it together. And suddenly you're like seeing, the perspective of a different client. And I think a lot of clients love that because it's like, even for this commercial health project, they're like, oh, well, oh, you have someone who like consults the CDC or consults, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. And it's like, yeah, like, we have people who are badged contractors for them. In some ways, that's really useful to have that experience. So I like it. I like public health consulting. DC is really cool. I recently saw that DC is one of the best cities in the country for women in tech, which I definitely believe. Like way better than like all of California for like ratios of women involved in tech. And a lot of that is government driven, but a lot of it's also just like DC, I think culturally is like
Mhm.
not super tech bro-y. We don't have like the skyscrapers and like the Manhattan or like SF culture in terms of like flexing where you work. When I was in SF, like you couldn't go anywhere without someone bragging like who they work at or what campus they're going back to or whatever. And like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm like, oh, I have no emotion to that at all. Like my office isn't that great. I'm in, like next to the White House, I guess. That's kind of cool. But yeah, so
Yeah.
very different culturally for tech.
What's it like with data science and government? I mean, how is government accepting data science? Or, I mean, I hear, sometimes some of the government have legacy systems. How do you break through all that and, kind of convince them to, take on newer technologies and so forth? I mean, if you can share a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think the government's really cool, and I think we think of them as monolithic. They're really not. Like any agency that you just pick out of like an org chart will have a bunch of sub-agencies, and those sub-agencies will have branches, and those branches will have centers, and those centers will have programs, and it's just a massive web of groups. And a lot of them are relatively autonomous. Like they tackle one problem, whether it's childhood blood lead or injury prevention in nursing homes or veterans affairs and like strategic communications or veterans affairs for community care. Like there's all kinds of branches and orgs, and all of them are unique, and all of them have different levels of data science maturity. Like you'll have a client who's, hey, we have all these Python models, and we need to have a user interface that lets us pick among our Python models. A lot of this is NLP, so like they're specific embeddings, and it's like we have all these NLP models, and we need to be able to pick and choose which one we want to investigate and figure out which one's the best one. And that's a really cool problem. And then you'll have other ones, same agency, different branch, different program, different whatever, and they're like, yeah, we have all this data. We don't even have any dashboards yet. We don't even have any like executive level views of what data's in, what's accurate, what's not. So you have the full range of data science maturity, even in just one agency. So you think of the government, and you look at LinkedIn and Isaac Faber. I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
He's at
Isaac
the
Faber,
Army.
yeah.
Yeah, he's at the Army doing AI task force stuff. Super advanced AI over there. And then you'll have a different branch of a different military group, and they're like, hey, we don't even know how we're going to do our logistics. We're not even forecasting our logistics right now. That's probably not true anymore, but you just hypothetical. So the curve is super wide and it's everywhere, which is super cool because there's no, I'm not biased on anything. Like, I don't think the work at the first stage of the maturity curve is any less cool than the work at the top. Like, I think it's all super cool. Like, I think dashboarding is just as cool as deep learning. I think dashboarding is actually cooler than deep learning. I think deep learning is hype.
Very hype. Very hype.
Cool. And how about like red tape and that kind of stuff? I mean, how does that work when it comes to data science? Are there any disagreements and concerns in that area?
Yeah, I do think there are some regulatory things around like bias and interpretability where like you do want to like really be careful that you're not making assumptions that lead to like continuing racial discrepancies. So like, for example, in public health work, there's social determinants of health, which are, access to food, access to healthcare facilities, access to education and all this stuff. And those are super correlated with race because America has a racist history. And that affects things. It affects the willingness to do black box models, and it affects the willingness to use certain features. Like you just won't use features that you just think are bias ridden and bias driven. So yeah, I think there's a lot there in terms of like the impact of it being a government thing and it's taxpayer money, and you want to make sure it's fair as possible. Whereas I think in commercial, they care about that stuff, but they're not going to give up 2 points of precision over it. Like they're not going to give up hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity over it.
Cool. Thank you for answering those questions.
Super interesting, man. I never thought of the government that way. I was about to take a government job a couple of years ago before I went to this other startup. And it was just always my assumption that government is just slow moving bureaucracy, can't do anything. It might be different in like provincial governments or state governments versus US government. What do you think?
I work with a lot of state governments in some ways for public health stuff. We published in the Journal of Environmental Epidemiology with our client on this Shiny app that we developed that automated a bunch of SAS code and some really cool stuff in childhood blood lead poisoning, like alert detection. and we deployed it to states, and we went to the states and we saw their programs, and it's like, they're super technical. They got like Azure data warehouses and data lakes. They have chief data science officers. Like, state government is not, I don't think it's a fair assumption at all that the government is like monolithic all. And honestly, in some ways, it's the opposite. The government's driving things. You look at the history of space and aeronautics, and it's just like, oh yeah, the government created GPS and the internet and microwaves and like all this other stuff. The weather service, when the government came out with the weather service, they created a $5 billion industry overnight just because they made weather super accessible inside apps and stuff like that. So I mean, yeah, I don't think I think it's super weird that people think the government's bureaucratic and backward. You'll always find people in the government who are like trying to change the system, trying to make big things happen with big budgets behind them. So yeah, I think people have a totally incorrect perception of like what government can be.
I guess you could say government created data science because of DJ Patel. Wasn't he in the government?
Oh yeah, he was the chief data scientist at the U.S. government. Yep, you're right.
Coined the term. So speaking about public health, let's say there's some students out there who are really trying to break into the health domain and they don't know where to start for like a project for health or public health. Do you know if public health data is actually public and open through some open data portal? And if so, what would be an interesting project that somebody could do?
So if you're interested in public health, I know everybody's made a COVID-19 dashboard and a COVID-19 forecast, but there is really no better time to get into public health, because I think what we're going to see is a lot more investment in public health. I was actually telling someone, I've been talking to a lot more people about job offers they've been getting and like kind of their career plans. Not super deep mentorship because I don't have time for it, but like if you message me a random question, I'll answer like 99.9% of the time pretty much. And this guy, he just accepted a job at EY actually, which is cool. And in the government division, which is why it's relevant. And he was asking me the same thing, like, hey, I want to study stuff. I don't know what to pick. I could do cybersecurity. I could do business. I could do health informatics. And I was like, dude, pick health informatics. Like, health is going to be massive. Everyone is going to remember for the rest of their life that, public health was underfunded for years. And like, this is how it got in this situation, because people don't want to pay for preventative stuff. And that's not just COVID-19, but all healthcare. Like our whole healthcare industry is about the lack of preventative health, which the government's also trying to move to with like quality-based payments and things like that, which is the whole thing to Google. So what can you do if you're interested in public health? I think the first thing you can do is just do research on like a specific field. Social determinants of health is a really cool field that you can look into. There's a lot of census variables that you can get. There's a lot of data available on data.gov, Kaggle, that you can actually like map this stuff and like understand differences in health related to like social determinants of health. There's also definitely more and more places that are like engaging in open source. So they're making their data open source and asking for citizen data scientists to get involved. Kaggle has a few of those in the health domain, to my understanding. But yeah, I mean, public health is just too big. Like, you got to pick something a little more specific.
By social determinants of health, what do you mean by that? Is that just like socio-demographic factors and how they impact health outcomes?
Essentially, yeah. So, I mean, you could think of food swamps, food deserts, distance to hospitals, historical racial differences, diabetes and obesity. I mean, I'm not super into social determinants of health. I'm just saying it because it's a popular thing to bring up. We actually have, now that I say that, we have a paper that we just made public, and it's AI for health, and it's totally open online. So I'll just post it here and you can share it too.
Yeah, definitely.
And it talks about social determinants of health. Yeah, artificial intelligence. So, trying to post it really quick.
Yeah.
Is there a chat feature?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. And in the meantime, if either Perry or Raul, I know you guys are sitting quiet. If you guys got questions, feel free to hop in and ask, or comments. Doesn't even need to be questions. Cool. Yeah, I see that link there. I will definitely.
Hi everyone. I am
Hey,
Rahul and I'm based in India.
nice.
Uh, so I am trying to make a switch to data science from liberal arts. And in India, it's a bit difficult to switch careers. People are not that flexible, so I am rather at a disadvantageous position compared to an engineer. And my weakest part is the math. How should I plan the math journey for the data science? I'm not that bad at programming, but yeah, for math, I need to cover.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really like a secret resource to get better at math. I think you essentially just pick up a book, work through the exercises, then you know
Okay.
the math part, right? So in this case, when you're talking about liberal arts and you're talking about math is not up to par, like talk to me a little bit more about that. Where's your skill set at right now? What was the
You want to
last,
know?
I guess, what was the
Yeah,
last math class you took? And
last math class I took in my marketing class for market research.
okay,
There I learned about hypothesis testing.
okay. So I think for people who are really making that like super orthogonal career path coming from totally left field into data science, a really reasonable way to get your foot into the door is maybe not pursue that full stack data science career path and think about how you can get into maybe a role that is more analytics focused, marketing analyst, right? Data analyst, roles like that.
Yeah,
And
I would just echo that and say you definitely want to make sure you have a plan. Like, here I'm posting a book too. So if you don't know math, that's okay. I'm very bad at math. I have a master's degree in applied econ, so I'm obviously not that bad at math. But like, I don't think I'm very good at math. So figure out ways to like combo learn. So like, can you learn using a tool you kind of know? So the book I just posted from Open Intro, they have a course in intro to statistics through simulations in R. And honestly, that's my best way to like remember math and learn math is like, okay, I know R really well. I know how to do all these calls to like random functions and stuff. So I need to learn statistics again, and I need to do it while inside R. And that's how I get like way better at stuff. I'm just like, okay, well, the theory says that if I take all these random distributions and I look at the distributions of the residuals from a basic model on them, that the root mean squared error of the residuals should be what the standard deviation that I used to make the randomization work. I know that's kind of hard to hear. I have a post on GitHub about that. I'll link that too. But like that's how I figure stuff out. I'm just like, okay, well, the theory is this, and I simulate using this, and then I test using this, and holy crap, like I just proved the theory in a way that I understand because I coded it. So
yeah,
yeah, definitely make sure you're doing it like through activity. Don't just like read a textbook.
exactly what I was going to say. You'll notice that everything he talked about was action, right? So I wouldn't like, I mean, obviously, if you need to sit through online courses to get exposed to the material, understand it, but as much as you can, try to apply it and apply it using like collide two things together, right? So Carlos is talking about being super good with R and stats kind of go hand in hand. Uh, Raul, I'm not sure if you were good with Python or R, whichever one it is. You mentioned you had programming experience. Um, Collide those two together, and there are resources out there where you can do applied statistics with Python or applied statistics with R. Um, but the way you're going to get better is by just doing as many exercises as possible and building out projects as much as possible.
I just posted the my markdown on that root mean squared error problem, and how I kind of found out about it. Like I like knew the statistics behind the rule, but I never actually simulated it. And when I simulated it myself, I was like, oh, the root mean squared error is the estimate of your like population's natural noise, which makes it different from an accuracy metric for assessing models. So that's like how I figured all that out. And I'm like, that's how I've always figured out statistics is like what does it mean to multiply distributions? I don't know what that means. So a lot of Bayesian stuff is about multiplying distributions. So yeah, I mean, start small, and like what Harpreet said is just like don't chase like things that are like super outside of what's possible. Like I was a teacher in Incheon, Korea, and I was like, okay, in the next 3 years, I want to be like a data scientist. So I need to practice. I need to learn R. I need to get some experience. So I worked with startups. I need to go to grad school and learn more math and learn better domain stuff. So I went to grad school, and it took like legit 3 years to. And even my first role as like an R developer was copy pasting out of Word documents, and that's when I was like, okay, this is a nightmare. Let me use R Shiny on my own, ask for permission to download R and all this stuff, and automate this pipeline. And I didn't know how to do it until I started doing it. But then I figured that part out. I got better at R, was doing grad school, had my personal projects. So, I mean, it took a long time. You should have a plan. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be super detailed.
And so through a data science dream job, we have like this roadmap mapped out for how you start breaking into the field. So maybe as Jaya could attest to that. I don't know.
Yeah,
If
so I joined the, yeah. So I joined the program, and they have a good curriculum that you can follow, things that you're weak at. I took linear algebra way back in high school, it's like forgotten. So, but the SDJ has provided a books, online classes, and even, articles to read to kind of get you up to speed. Definitely learning by doing definitely helps. So yeah, so it's been good. So
yeah, so look into that. I'll toss the 70% off code. It's just the sdj.co/artists70. But yeah, that would be the best way, is just by practicing, by applying, build out small projects for yourself. Like just come up with a problem statement, say, I'm wondering if people in this neighborhood make more money than people in that neighborhood, right? Well, how are you gonna test that? How are you gonna come up with a way to make a statement whether one neighborhood makes more or less money than the other one, right? Well, that involves so many different steps, that from finding the data to actually coming up with a conclusion, everything in between, like that's a huge learning experience. So definitely action, action, action. Question here from Perry. Want to develop a healthcare recommendation system. Is there any good articles for that? Guessing that's probably a question for Carlos, because I don't know anything about healthcare recommendation systems, but we could definitely do some Google searches and see what we come up with.
What was the question? Sorry, I was looking at something related to learning art that I was going to post.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's a healthcare. Oh, well, Perry wants to develop a healthcare recommendation system and is wondering if there's any good articles related to that.
So I would just defer to Googling it, and you'll probably see a lot of stuff from NIH. NIH has a lot of like research that they hold in their repository. It's like an archive of research. And they'll definitely have stuff around health-based recommender systems. So like choosing whether or not to test somebody. That's actually a super great potential project too, is just like diving in to like the realities of testing for different health things. So for example, cancer, for example, we can just pick on breast cancer, I guess, because it's like very, very well known. You do the test for breast cancer, and what you find out is that there are real risks to these tests. Like not a mammogram necessarily, but doing CT scans and EKGs are not relevant to breast cancer, but EKGs or whatever, and you find out that there's health risks to doing these tests, and because there's health risks, there are real life implications of false positives and false negatives, and the ratio of false positives, false negatives might really affect whether or not you can recommend a test to somebody, because if you do 10 tests on somebody, you could give them cancer if it's like a radiation-based test of some sort. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff around like the balancing of precision and recall, and understanding like whether you really should test for something, because there's no free lunch. Like there's always a risk with something that you're doing. And even if the risk is just wasting someone's time, I mean, imagine if you have a false cancer diagnosis and you spend months or years like working off this false diagnosis and changing your diet, getting on a medication, starting chemo. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in terms of the risks around different tests, their sensitivity and specificity, and how those things impact like the true accuracy rates. If you look up sensitivity and specificity, you'll find a lot of stuff about the HIV studies that were done in the late 80s and early 90s for like assessing whether or not someone had HIV or AIDS. And what they found is, you can give someone a test and they're positive, you give them another test and they're negative, and you look at like like a Bayes theorem thing, like if you tested positive, what's the likelihood you actually have it? And that's where you get into the sensitivity, specificity, and the implied ratio, like implied log ratios and things like that. It's really interesting stuff. And it's relevant to COVID-19 too. I mean, you take a COVID-19 test, they're not 100% accurate. It could be a false positive, false negative. That has implications for how these things are being reported. It's a very deep well, is my point, I guess.
Some excellent insight. I went ahead and I shared a couple of links here that I just Googled up. So hopefully I'll help you, Perry. Perry's asking about R shiny. Well, we're not going to talk about Python versus R. That's, yeah. Yeah, man. What else is going on, man? What do you got planned for the weekend?
We bought our first house about a year ago, and we're always doing stuff. So mostly house things.
Yeah, where you and your wife, girlfriend, fiance?
Oh, my fiance, yeah.
Nice.
So figuring out the wedding situation with COVID.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to make it not too small, but also not too big.
Yeah, so like in Indian culture, Punjabi culture, man, our weddings are massive. So our wedding, for example, the party had like 450-ish people, which was small compared to most Indian weddings, but
that's cool. I mean, all the Indian people I know have a lot of friends, and it's a super cool like family culture of just knowing everybody who knows everybody.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who had to cancel weddings or like really downsized weddings, make them a lot smaller, but yeah, definitely rough times. We're hoping to, because we just had a baby. My wife and I had a baby about 5 months ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. You did tell me that.
Yeah. So we were planning on going to California for the holidays, but that's definitely not going to be happening now, especially with California on fire.
I don't know anything about the West Coast right now. I see stuff of people in LA and they're acting like it's normal. They just have a red sky. Oh, there's a cat that just came in behind me. How cute. Okay. I'm posting you on my story.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to take a better picture?
No. No.
It's the worst possible picture of me ever.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. It's real life.
There we go, man. Yeah. So I wonder like if this authentication issue causes people to not join in. Was it that troublesome to log in?
Well, it made the assumption that you already had an account.
Yeah,
so
typically what happens, Harpreet, typically when people click on the Zoom, it just takes you to the video.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one requires you to log in, put in your password and all that. For me, it's okay because I already have a Zoom link ahead of time for other things. So I just log in. But I think for public, it may be because the time-consuming part of logging in and getting an account and so forth probably might delay people. I don't know.
I'll have to check what the settings were. I thought I had the standard.
They got in a bunch of trouble because people were Zoom bombing. Like you could just hop in on anybody's Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Zoom like got it very different in terms of like limiting that stuff. But yeah, you got to make yourself open to Zoom bombing. So more people, the merrier.
Yeah, I'll definitely look through security settings for anybody who's catching up on this on YouTube or on the podcast. That will be updated. It'll be in such a way where you just click on the link and it'll take you right to Zoom. That way we'll have a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Last week I had like 10 people though. 10 people were hanging out last week. It was
that's cool.
Quite busy. Yeah, man. We got some interesting stuff happening for the podcast in terms of the next few weeks. What I got releasing. Interviewed Annie Duke yesterday. She wrote Thinking in Bets and How to Decide. And Thinking in Bets, that book changed my life. So it was
more books.
Yeah, man. I've going through this book right now. I've got this guy coming on the show, Christian Bush. He's got the serendipity mindset. This book is, I mean, I've probably went through about 50 books this year, and this is hands down
How do you?
my favorite
I
one.
thought you have a baby. How do you read?
I'm up at like 4 a.m. and I read a lot. Like I read a lot and I read relatively fast. And I read through parts of books that I find super interesting.
It
I don't
does
even
help.
necessarily need to finish a book. But for example, Serendipity Mindset, I liked it a lot. Oh, Phoenix Project. That's a good one.
Oh, I got through 200 pages in like 2 days.
Yeah. Reading's just, you gotta make it a habit, man. Like I got a very set, like my morning routine has changed ever since I had the baby, but now it's, I'll put the pot of coffee on and I will meditate for 10 minutes while the coffee is getting ready, come downstairs, do my journaling, and then get right into the reading. And I'll read for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour, before I even turn on like the computer or anything. So just plow through. And then nighttime, like I just recently picked up the subscription for the great courses through Amazon Prime.
I've heard of that. I don't know much about it, but I've heard
dude,
of it.
it's dope. They got these courses that just cover a wide variety of topics. So two that I've been kind of digging into. One was all about decision making, how we decide. It's just talking about the cognitive process of decision making, and one of them is called Outsmart Yourself, which is pretty much how to hack yourself, how to hack your cognitive processes.
I'm working on that.
Yeah,
I've been doing therapy to just figure myself out, because I'm like that age where I'm like kind of needing to like be the adult that I think I am.
Yeah.
And my therapist was like, "What's your ideal day? Write it down." And I'm like, "Dude, I've never done this. I've never written out an ideal day." And today is like my first ideal day, funny enough. And it's gone perfect. I woke up at like 6 a.m., did yoga, did all my stuff, didn't look at my phone for 3 hours. I didn't look at my phone until like 9 o'clock, which is insane for me. I'm normally like, email?
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's super cool. You have like your whole routine figured out. When do you actually work?
I work from about like 9:30 to about like 5-ish, right before I start office hours.
Dang.
Yeah.
I gotta stop working the 8 to 8s. That's my
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I got like data science dream job office hours multiple times a week. So that happens at least 3 times a week for an hour and a half each time. Then Saturdays, every Saturday I do, well, not every Saturday, every other Saturday I do a orientation session for new students for data science dream job. And every second Saturday of the month, I just teach like a full on class, not necessarily teach a class, but I just talk about a topic and the important concepts from that topic. And it's just a wide variety of things. Like this month I did ML ops. Last month I did what it means to deploy a model. But the month before that I did storytelling, like how to tell stories in data science.
All recorded, right?
Yeah, it's all recorded. It's all, join data science dream job. You get access to all this stuff. Then next month coming up, I'll be doing, I forgot what the topic was for next month, but I need to start working on that soon because the second Saturday of October is creeping up on me.
So you don't watch TV?
No.
Or
Very,
eat
very
junk
little.
food?
Oh, I eat junk food. I eat a fucking.
Or do anything bad?
I ate a cinnamon roll this morning. Yeah, I mean, I just don't watch too much TV. I probably like Friday afternoon is my time. Like I'll go to the pub, which is down the street brewery, and I'll have like a beer or two and pick up like some food, come home and watch a movie with my wife and just chill. But yeah, I don't have much bandwidth to do anything else other than like work.
I mean, I guess if you just build the life you want, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything that I fucking do. Like I fucking love it. And like getting the Artist of Data Science podcast off the ground is a lot of work. Like it's a ton of work. Especially now since
you got interns like I told you to, right?
Yeah, I did. So I hired so my interns are there right now. So it's my cousin, my wife's cousin, her and her 3 friends. For school credit, they will come and they'll help me out. So I've got them helping out with they build out the blog post quotes, so they're doing that stuff. They're helping me clean the transcripts because for the first 38 episodes, I did it all myself.
I know. I know. I would think I was 38 because I was yelling at you
Yeah.
to stop doing it this way.
Yeah, and I started outsourcing the editing, and so then my interns do the transcription, and they do the blog post quotes, and they're helping me with audiograms and audio visual stuff for.
Get an intern, man. I need an intern just for my regular.
Yeah,
Oh,
shout out to the interns if they ever get a chance to listen to this. But yeah, it's been helpful. So now I've been focusing more on just trying to obviously prepare for the interviews, just so I have the best possible interview. So like having to read through books, like, and then
you get a
also,
lot of authors on your show.
yeah, so I'm
It's really
pivoting now to just, instead of just stories of data scientists, it's going to be it's just a self-development podcast for data science. So I've just a bunch of authors for books and ideas that I think need to be out there. So for example, we're talking about serendipity mindset. This guy's coming out. I've got the creator mindset, a book about how to be more creative and the role of creativity. I've got some I interviewed Maya Grossman the other day. She wrote the book Invaluable. She's really big on LinkedIn. So how to be invaluable, indispensable in your career. I interviewed Keith McCormick. He's a teacher on LinkedIn Learning. So we talked about the non-technical skills of data science.
Why am I actually the worst person you've ever had on your podcast?
No, you're not, man. Definitely not. All my people are equally amazing. Everybody that's taking time out of their schedule to be on the show, man, all of them are awesome people. I'm probably the worst person on the podcast, to be honest. But yeah, I got a lot of cool stuff like Scott Young from Ultra Learning. That was insane to have him on the show. Alex Pang, he's been interviewed by like Ariana Huffington, Rangan Chatterjee, and all these other people. Like, it's crazy how it's been working out. Coming up, I got an interesting one happening in a couple of weeks. I'm interviewing somebody who's a cognitive scientist / philosopher, and we're going to talk about the meaning of life and then AI ethics. A lot of cool stuff happening.
I know you don't watch TV, but you should watch The Good Place. A lot of good stuff in terms of philosophy on that one.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
It's a comedy about dying and going to the bad place, and 4 people who all have very different like ethical issues, like navigating that. It's very well done comedy. I liked it a lot, and it's short. They did 4 seasons, and they're like, okay, we ended the way we wanted to end. Like, they did not drag it on.
All right, that might be a good thing to watch on Friday evenings. Check that out.
What was that thing you posted? You wanted to talk about game theory with someone? What do you want about game theory, man?
I just want to learn more about it. I think it sounds interesting. So there's a guy who created a course on the great courses. It's called Games We All Play, Game Theory for Business and Life or something like that. So I reached out to him. So we'll see what happens, see what he says. Hopefully he says yes. And like, I just don't like, I will reach out to I've got a tremendous amount of books on this shelf. I reach out to pretty much everybody. Some people get back, some people won't. But the ones that do,
I think the biggest compliment you can pay someone is like, I read your book and I want to interview you. And it's like, you actually read it. That's sick.
Yeah, that's like my ideal life. The ideal life is I just want to read books all day. I want to talk about the books I wrote, or rather talk about the books I read with the authors who wrote them, and collide ideas together from these books that I'm reading with data science. And how can I collide them together and implement them in my data science life, or help at least spark a thought on how somebody can implement it in their life.
Well, whenever you're doing your round A on this podcast business thing, let me know. Because I'm all in.
Yeah, start making it a full-on media company. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. I got I got a couple of weeks. I got somebody coming. Well, we recorded the episode already, so in a couple of weeks I'll be releasing an episode that's like Stoicism 101, which is a huge part of my life, like Stoic philosophy. Dude, Stoicism, Stoic philosophy.
It's a whack philosophy.
Really? No, I think it's I've studied a lot of different philosophies, and I've tried to find some way to live my life, and I find Stoicism is pretty much the one that makes most sense to me.
I like the Buddhist aspects of Stoicism, like pain is inevitable, suffering's a choice. Like, I like that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Stoicism has just become like the anchor of so much toxic masculinity in our society.
I don't. What do you tell me more about this?
It's like it's okay. It's like people are drinking from the well, but then they're using dirty cups and they're poisoning the well. That's how I feel about it. Like people who read one thing about Stoicism, or they read the 48 Laws of Power way too young, and then they're all about Stoicism, and they just become like they try to become an like a positive sociopath, and
Yeah, that
that's
might be
not
people
that's
that
not
are.
what
Yeah,
Stoicism is.
yeah, they're probably
So
misinterpreting it. Yeah,
I don't know. I think if enough people misinterpret it, they actually do poison the well, and that's what I think
yeah,
is happening in Stoicism. That's why I'm all about the Buddhism, because I feel like people aren't on it enough. Obviously, they
yeah,
are. It's a global religion, of course,
yeah.
and I'm not the best Buddhist at all. But
Yeah, I mean, but just like there's if you go back to the roots of like the actual Stoic text, like Epictetus, like Marcus Aurelius. I don't know if you can call that Stoic text. It was his actual journal, so it wasn't meant to be published, but he's shared some tremendous insights into philosophy. But yeah, I got an episode releasing in a couple weeks, like Stoicism 101, and in a couple of weeks, I'm interviewing Donald Robertson, who wrote Stoicism and the Art of Happiness and How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. So I'm really excited to talk to him.
I'll listen to it. I'm happy to be
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, man, check it out. It'll be interesting. Krishna, what up, Krishna? We got another data science dream job student in the house.
So,
You guys should be at Lediona's
Hey,
office
Carlos.
hours. Oh,
hey,
you guys here to hang out with Carlos?
Yeah, I saw the LinkedIn post and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, we're just
it's
hanging out.
become an accidental podcast. Oops.
Yeah, pretty much, man. No, it's all good, man. I think I need to make it easier for people to log in. So I'm gonna edit whatever is happening.
Ugh. Oh, you asked me what I was up to. I'm doing some blockchain stuff, man. Y'all don't want to know about this blockchain stuff. It's crazy.
What are you doing with the
Like,
blockchain?
dude, I have accidentally been roped into an entirely new world of like finance and Hayekian money and like economic theory. Like I'm all in on this decentralized finance train. I think the concept of paying someone to send your money to someone else going away. I think in 10 years, this is a crazy one. I think in 10 years, there are going to be countries, probably small countries, that will just give up their currency and switch to decentralized finance. And it's happening, man. Like, I don't want to get too crazy into it, but there are
Yeah.
ways you get paid in cryptocurrency by offering liquidity between cryptocurrencies. So it's like, it's the purest form of interest. It's like, hey, I will have both of these currencies. I will give you US dollars and euros, and whichever one you need, I'll freely let you swap between my pool, but you have to give me a percentage. And then that's how you make the money. By offering liquidity, you get paid. And it's the purest form of interest, and it just works. And then you get like rewards based on how much you're giving. There's all this stuff. There's the deep, well, it's so deep, and I know I sound like a crazy trade crypto guy. That's not my point at all.
No, it's interesting. I was watching this show on Amazon Prime. I think it's called this giant beast we call our global economy with Cal Penn, and he had an episode entirely on cryptocurrency, and a lot of people were talking about the same exact thing that you're discussing. It's really fascinating, and I think if anybody's listening or anybody has Amazon Prime, check that out because it's a really quick primer into what crypto is all about, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I can give you the 2-minute 101 on it too.
Let's do it. We have exactly 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So, just summarizing the math first. Okay. So, someone wants to contribute some piece of information. You could be inside a company, for example, and call it data, whatever. Someone wants to contribute a piece of information to a database. This database is a special property. The database cannot be changed, and it's also copied in tons and tons of places so that it's completely decentralized. So you don't have to make a S3 bucket anymore. You just have a chain of people who all have copies, and it can't be changed no matter what. Actually, it can be changed if you own the entire thing. It's a 51% attack. But anyway, so you can't change it. And then they say, hey, I want to make a contribution. I will pay you to put my contribution onto the chain. That's the token. right? I'm paying you to put the contribution on there. In order to accept the token, everyone has to prove that their chain is correct. So they have to do a proof of work. There's other proofs too. There's proof of scale, proof of consent, proof of vote. There's all kinds of proofs. And then if you do a bunch of really hard math problems and you do them correctly, then you'll get the token and then you'll add to the chain. Now, here's the cool thing though. You can wrap that math problem, the hard math problem that proves that you are the right person to add to the chain. You can wrap any mathematical function on that. And what that's called is a smart contract. So it's like under this algorithmic set of rules, when something's added to the chain, this self-deploying code triggers. And now you have this operation where, hey, I want to add to a data set and I have this token payment. And because you want to earn that payment, you will do math for me. That math can be anything you want it to be. And suddenly you don't just have decentralized finance, you have decentralized computing power. So you could be solving, a gradient descent for some business in exchange for some token amount of money. So it's decentralized computing, decentralized finance, self-deploying code. And it's all wrapped up into these nuggets of anonymous like tokens in exchange, all decentralized. So I mean, this thing is going to blow up. Like it's going to blow up. You have spare RAM on your computer. You're going to be able to just rent out your spare RAM while you're sleeping overnight to some Google Chrome extension that will be solving math problems and giving you a piece of the money. Like this thing's going to explode. That's the 3-minute summary of why it's awesome. Although I didn't really go too much into the chain and distributed ledger portions.
I think you actually talk about this in the episode we did as well. So I'll link that episode into the show.
Well, I've learned a lot since that episode. That's why I'm even more hyped now.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man. All right, well, our time's up, man. Thank you guys for hanging out. Everybody listening, this will be on YouTube, so you can see Carlos talk in action. And I fixed the authentication on Zoom.
That was fast.
So I guess
All right,
that
cool.
was an obstacle in the way for people getting in, but it will be easy next week. Just click on the link. You'll be able to get in. Thank you guys for hanging out. And if you're listening and you haven't registered for office hours, you should register because I know there's at least 1,000 of you guys out there listening to the show. So register and take care. Have a good weekend, everybody. And thanks for hanging out. Peace.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.